Hello and welcome back to the Warhammer 3 news. I'm COLONELDAMNEDERS and today we're back with the Nurgle roster. Now last week we heard about the faction mechanics and they are truly something special. Will the roster live up to expectations? Let's dive in and find out. First up we of course have the legendary lord, which is of course Kugaf the Plaguefather. Now he is always riding atop a huge palanquin that is teeming with various alchemical materials to toss onto the battlefield during combat. This mount is held up by a carpet of struggling Nurglings as countless others attend to his every need. In combat he works as an explosive artillery piece, with the ability to hurl explosive Nurglings halfway across the map at his foes. He's also a spellcaster of access to Lore of Nurgle we learned about a couple of weeks back. Aside from that, he's not the best in frontline combat, but being an unclean one, he's incredibly tough to take down. So to summarise, an artillery piece, a spellcaster, and a tank. Onto the generic lords now, we come to the Herald of Nurgle. These appear to be incredibly tough frontline battlers of Nurgle that are jovial in nature and inspire confidence in their followers. They can ride on the palanquin or a rotfly and can use either the Lore of Nurgle or the Lore of Death. And that's all we know about them in their single paragraph, but some units really are that simple. Our other lord types are the Exalted Great Unclean Ones. These are the patriarchs of the Nurgle forces, referring to their forces as their children. This doesn't make them soft, if anything it makes them fight harder to protect their units and destroy their enemies. They are incredibly powerful magical units with spells from the Lore of Nurgle or Death, as well as tanks on the front lines with decent melee prowess and a horrifying presence just by being there. Moving on to the heroes now, we first have the Cultists of Nurgle. Cultists exist to spread plagues throughout the world, be this in the form of corruption or some of the custom-made plagues you can create in the Cauldron. While they can be taken into combat, they are far more effective on the campaign map, so I'd avoid this if at all possible. Our other heroes are the Plague-ridden. These are souls infected with Nurgle's gifts who have managed to survive enough stages of mutation and decay to be transformed into the Plague-ridden. They are somewhere between life and death and are now walking diseases with the sole purpose of spreading the infection further. They are the beacons of plague, which increases the strength of their allies while sapping that of their enemies. They are also casters with the choice of the Lore of Nurgle or Death, and they can choose between a palanquin and a rotfly for a mount. Onto the melee infantry now, we of course have the Nurglings. These are tiny versions of Nurgle himself and appear friendly and mischievous. They advance on their enemies like an ocean of plague, attacking with every appendage they can to spread disease as quickly as possible. They of course have poison attacks and an aura of disease, which lowers the melee attack of nearby enemies. They finally can also Vanguard deploy, so swarming the enemy from a hidden location will be a very viable strat. Next we have the Plaguebearers of Nurgle. These are the meat of the Nurgle ranks with large amounts of health and strength to plow through their enemies before they take too much damage. They're also incredibly slow, even inside a faction known for not being too speedy, so you'll have to be careful not to let them get kited. Now they also come with another variant, Exalted Plaguebearers. These are the bigger and stronger variants that come with an added ranged weapon where they throw armor-piercing projectiles from a short range with limited ammunition, similar to blasting charges. These of course afflict poison damage and slow the speed of effective units. Of course we also have the Forsaken of Nurgle. These are similar to the other Forsaken units we've seen so far. They are faster and more defensive than Plaguebearers, but don't have much damage, meaning a combination of the two will probably be the way to go. Moving on to monsters now, we have the Chaos Furies of Nurgle. These are another unit that all the Chaos factions share, and this version come with poison attacks and Vanguard deployment, as well as being one of the few units of Nurgle to have high movement speed. Aside from that, they are your average Furies. Now the Beasts of Nurgle are anything but average. They are truly disgusting and horrific, despite having the temperament of an excited puppy. They come with regeneration and a slowing magical slime that covers their entire body, getting onto anything they come in contact with. They lumber towards the enemy and toy with them until they stop moving, before finding something else to slobber over. Plague toads are exactly what you'd expect. Oversized toads, covered in plague-ridden pustules. They take on the role of oversized cav with their relatively fast speed and large mass, allowing them to plow through enemy lines. They are quite cheap, so don't expect them to carry through to the endgame, but while you have them, they are a unique and fun unit to use. Rotflies are what you get when malice lies in the heart of a creature and is left untreated. Eventually, they transform, just like a butterfly, into a disgusting, oversized pest, ridden with disease. They are fast-moving and armor-piercing flying units, which stacks up to be an incredibly powerful combination, especially in a slower roster. They seem like they'll be similar to Vargheists, so I'm very excited to take them with me into the late game and see how they handle it. Pox Riders of Nurgle are plague toads being ridden by Plaguebearers. They are the fastest cam in the world, but they come with a lot of mass, meaning a devastating charge, alongside some decent sustained combat. What you see is what you get from these guys, and they will be the logical upgrade from regular plague toads. We of course have the Chaosspawn of Nurgle. Again, these are a shared unit, so share all the same characteristics of the rest with the additions of poison attacks and regen, making them into likely one of the most survivable options for Chaosspawn. The Plague Drones are another combination you didn't know you needed. It's Plaguebearers again, but this time they're on top of Rotflies, which create a fast-moving and high-damage combination. The Rotflies consume their target's hull, while the Plaguebearers soften them up with melee attacks, which adds up to be a very devastating combination. They also come in two variations, regular and Death Heads. Death Heads can throw the polished skulls of the Rotflies' prey enemies for short range and high damage missile fire. Of course, we also have the Great Unclean ones. These are similar to the Lords and Heroes, but are of course a small step down in almost every way. They have access to various Nurgle spells, as well as boasting massive armor-piercing damage to cut through enemies, walls, and gates with ease. They are beacons of plague on the battlefield and will affect every enemy near to them, causing many foes to retreat in terror. And finally, we come to the Soul Missile monster, the Soul Grinder. These are another shared unit, and this variant comes with poisonous missiles with artillery-like range, as well as the kick-ass melee stats, making for one tough-to-take-out monster. And that just about wraps up everything we know right now on the Nurgle roster, but any more news and it'll be covered right here, so be sure to subscribe to see more. Leave a comment below, tell me which your favourite Nurgle unit is, and leave a like if you're excited to play him. Consider supporting the show by becoming a member either here on YouTube, on Patreon, or on Twitch. Doing so gets you bonuses like shoutouts, such as It's Your Boy LC for their support at the Unclean Ones tier. Thank you to all supporters, thank you for watching, and for now, I've been COLONELDAMNEDERS, and I will see you next turn.